live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours, keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, welcome everybody to episode number 172 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, February the 4th, 2023, and my name is Jeremy Lee. I would like to thank Sasha Parfanov for joining us last Saturday. I'd also like to thank Josh Madigan of the Hockey Cards Gong Show for joining last Sunday for the weekly coverage of the hockey auctions ending in their weekly. Tomorrow, we will be back with another PWCC hockey auction extended bidding coverage. And if you have not yet heard, the extended bidding on PWCC's platform has been changed. It is now all access. You do not have to get a bid in before the period starts in order to be eligible to bid in extended bidding. I expect tomorrow night's show to be one of the most fun ones we have ever done. I want to ask you to join the close to 250,000 people who have already downloaded the Center Stage app across both iOS and Android for quick comps when you're at a card show or to help you price your cards for sale on any platform. Also, check out their collections and their albums feature too. The app is continuously improving, so please join me in supporting the great team and the innovation that they are undertaking. Also, I want to ask you to check out Whatnot app for auctions, group breaks, buy it nows, hosted around the clock by some of the most entertaining breakers in the hobby. Also, shout out to Leighton Sheldon of Just Collect. Leighton will be joining us tonight for a vintage update discussion. I'm excited for this one. We have a great topic for Leighton to address with myself and our guests tonight. I want to thank Kurt from the Basketball Card Nerd podcast for having me on. We recorded a podcast for his show yesterday, and that will be dropping on his podcast and YouTube channel, again, Basketball Card Nerd, early this upcoming week. I want to, as always, thank all of our loyal viewers, listeners, subscribers. If you are not yet subscribed to the Sports Cards Live channel, please take a moment and do so. I would greatly appreciate that. As always, your comments, your questions are in play tonight, so let's get to it. Tonight's guests got started in the hobby in middle school during the 1990s junk wax era and came back to the hobby at the beginning of the pandemic. They started their podcast, Cousins Collectibles, on January the 24th, 2022. Their favorite teams are all Philadelphia, the Flyers, the Phillies, the Eagles, and the Sixers. And their favorite athletes are Allen Iverson, Charles Barkley, Brian Dawkins, Randall Cunningham, and Roberto Clemente. Originally from and currently hailing from Reading, Pennsylvania. Let's bring them out. Cousin Tony, Cousin Oz. Welcome, guys, to Sports Cards Live. And how are you today, Tony?
Awesome, man. What an intro. Thank you so much. Man. We're excited to be here.
I feel like that was like an autobiography of my life there, man. I'm very honored to be on here. This is awesome, Jeremy Lee. Thank you for having us on, man.
Yeah. Hey, guys, you're welcome. And listen, you had me on your podcast a couple months ago. I had a great time chatting with you then. And, it's always fun to do these home and home podcasts with, you host me, I host you. They are fun. I think it's good to spread them out by a couple months anyway, so that, because there are some people that they consume a lot of content. So you don't want to get too repetitive, but it's nice to have you guys on and give you the Sports Cards Live experience and introduce you to my audience, which I'm sure we have some overlap, but not completely. So it's always great. What I like to do with this show is really have the audience get to know more people in the hobby, whether you're industry insiders, content creators, passionate collectors, or you cross over and you dip your toes into all three of those buckets, as many people do. So guys, yeah, it's great to have you. I enjoyed my time on your podcast. And for anyone who's listening, check out Cousins Collectibles podcast. There's an episode with me in there from a while back. And with that, though, let's start chatting, guys. So I want to talk about your hobby history and your relationship. You call yourselves Cousins Collectibles. I mean, are you guys actually cousins? Tony, are you guys blood?
We actually are. We are. So that's kind of what helps drive the show, because we can rib each other a little bit. I've known Oz all my life. He is the older of the two. So, we are absolutely 100% related. and it comes through in our show. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, it's a blast, and I'll let him talk about it a little bit more. But yeah, we have a great time, and it's just we talk day by day by day by day, so it's insane. But I'll kick it to Oz, and he can tell you a little bit more. But yeah, definitely a good time.
Yeah, it's all about family. So what we're doing on our show, it's just stuff that we've been doing for years, Jeremy. Just we talk back and forth, texting, and it's funny the dynamic between Tony and I. It's rare that we can be on a phone call. Like it'll be that accidental butt dial, and then he'll be like, "Oh, hey Tony, hold on, just hang up. I didn't mean to dial," and we won't talk at all. But get us on the text all day long. So I'm a mailman. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Oz the People's Mailman, an actual mailman. And Tony all day long. I really don't know what he does for work, but apparently, I don't know. He has enough time to text me all day long. So I got to go back and forth. Sometimes I'm curtailing the mail, texting Tony. I'll be stuck on a porch on somebody's porch, and Tony hits me up with something funny, and I'm texting back, and I look back, and there's the customer waiting for their mail. I'm like, oops, sorry. But yeah, so Tony and I always going back and forth. And then we just decided at one point, you know what? We started collecting. I was the first one to jump in. And a few months into it, I was like, man, I need a partner. I need a road dog here, somebody that can, like-minded and that's really into sports. So I hit up a couple people, nobody's really into it. And I said, let me hit up Tony and see if he's on board. And, it took a little bit twisting of the arm. At first, he was like, I don't really know about collecting cards. I think that's kind of like a Ponzi scheme. I'm not really into that. And I was like, nah, bro, just give it a chance and trust me. Would I lead you down the wrong way, Tony? You know what I mean? Your older cousin. And then finally he came on board. And then once we started collecting, again, the communication, the bond grew even stronger. And this guy came up with a crazy idea. Just, hey man, why don't we just get on a pod, hit the record button and talk about what we do? And I'm like, dude, you're crazy. I've never done this in my life. I'm shy to begin with. So what the hell do I know about being on a podcast and talking? And who the hell's going to listen anyway? Like, who's going to listen to us? We have no idea. We collected when we were younger. We stopped, got back into it, beginning of the pandemic. Like, what are we going to bring to the table, bro? Like, honestly, he's like, don't worry about that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And here we are, what is it, Tony? Almost 70 episodes.
Yep.
Yeah. And, things are rolling and we're living the dream, as they say.
So what got you back into the hobby about 5 or so years ago? After you're in it when middle school, as I mentioned in the intro, but then whatever, high school happens, women, cars, all these things sort of can take the attention of a young card collector's mind away. What brought you back into the hobby when you did get back into it?
Well, I'm not getting any younger there, Jeremy. And, I'm a collector by nature, or you can call it, quote unquote, hoarder. So I just anything and everything. Tony can tell you I have a very special shot glass collection that I've been curating for my entire life since high school, and anywhere I go, I just collect shot glasses. So that's kind of how, I had the cards always. I always kept them with me. Still have the same shoebox that I had when I was a little kid, all the junk wax that I had, and it's sitting right there underneath my bar. But then it came to a point where it was actually, I remember the day my brother, he had just had his son just had a baby boy. So we had a baptism and we were hosting it at my house. We had it in my man cave down here, and everybody is after the party. Everybody's just chilling out. My brother came up to me and he just mentioned something about cards, how they were kind of blowing up. And I was like, bro, you know what? I think I still have all my cards. So I went into my back room where I keep all my stuff, and I had a big blue box, and I pulled it out, and man, I was like, ooh, this is pretty cool. And I didn't know what junk wax was at the time. I'm just like, man, the memories are flooding back in. I'm looking at the old Michael Jordan cards, the Fleer, the hoops, 89 hoops, 90. And I'm like, oh man, I remember all these cards. Look at all these Jordans that I have. I said, these got to be worth something. So the first thing you do, my brother's like, well, why don't you go ahead and see what they're worth? Okay. So I just put in Michael Jordan, 1989 hoops. And, they're not comps. They're just the first things that pop up on Google, the prices that they're selling for. And it's like $8,000, $9,000, $12,000 raw cards. Michael, I'm like, what? Whoa. Me and my brother are looking. We're like, dude, you have that one and you have that one. Oh, bro. So we're thinking, I'm getting hyped up. I'm like, damn, I've been having these cards for 30 years, and I'm thinking I'm sitting on a gold mine, Jeremy. I'm like, woo, this is nice. So the party's over. I was like, all right, everybody got to go home, because I just found out that I've been sitting on a gold mine. I got to figure this all out. It's like I just hit the lottery. And I'm just looking at all these, they're not comps. They're just what people are asking for. It was like at that time, everything's going through the roof. So people are just putting raw cards on there. There was like the 89.90 hoops Magic Johnson card that I had. And I was like, oh man, $8,000 raw. So I'm thinking, I call up, my boys. I'm like, yeah. And I remember just one time I went to, like I said, I'm a mailman, and a buddy of mine is actually a vintage baseball collector. His name's Corky. And I went in real confident the next day to work, because he was talking a lot of smack on, I collect, Mickey Mantle and all these guys. And I was like, walked into work the next day. I was like, dude, get ready to get your mind blown. He's like, what's up? I said, dude, I've been collecting these cards. You got to check them out. I said, I got binders full, man. He's like, oh, yeah, what do you got? I said, yo, basketball. He's like, yeah. And he kind of gave me a weird look. And I was like, what's up? He's like, oh, no. Bring them in. I said, oh, yeah, okay, tomorrow I'll bring them in. But, bro, I'm telling you. He's like, well, I'll look at it. So I bring him in the next day, and I lay it down, and I put it right there on his case, and he's looking through them. He's like, yeah. Oh, okay. Michael Jordan. Yeah. Charles Barkley. Okay. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Oh, yeah. Real nice. Closes the book, puts it. I'm like, so what's up? What do you think? He's like, yeah, man, it looks real good. I said, so, your thoughts, you're the collector. How much you think I got in there? He's like, I would say about $17.50. And I said, what? He's like, yeah, bro. He's like, listen, I don't mean to burst your bubble, but that's junk wax. I was like, what the hell's junk wax? He's like, well, it's overproduced cards that usually, like the late 80s, 90s, they just overproduced them. Everybody had them. You're not the only one with these cards, and it's just not worth anything. I don't mean to be an ass, but sorry. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't believe that. I just spent the last 3 days thinking I'm the man, and now you're bursting my bubble, and I'm thinking, he's just a hater. He collects vintage baseball. What does he know? So I take my cards back home, and I was like, you know what? Let me see what this is all about. So I start doing some research, start listening to some podcasts. I start, doing real research on the internet, seeing what these cards are worth, finding out what comps are. And come to find out, lo and behold, Jeremy, I don't have a damn thing there. There was nothing of worth that I had in that collection. So being 47 years old, or at the time, 44, I was like, man, I kind of got some disposable income, and I think I want to do this right. So let me go ahead and do the research. And that's when I started collecting on my own. And then a little bit later, that's why I said I brought in Tony. I know that was a little long-winded, but we got a couple hours. So there it is.
So let me ask you this. When you started doing your research, did you come across any content creators or any podcasts or anything that kind of helped to spark the fire beneath you, or help to provide you with some direction as far as what you might collect, or what sport to look at, or what era to look at, or were you just going to go at it as with respect to what you liked and what you wanted? What was there any encouragement that you found?
Yeah. I was listening to anything and everything at the time. I mean, the big ones that I was listening to, because I love basketball. That's what I grew up playing. So like the Wax Museum. I was listening to that constantly. Chris Hoge and Christina's PC, House of Jordans was a real big influence on me. And what led me to my Allen Iverson, collecting Allen Iverson, was after listening to Chris Hoge and him getting the red Jordan PMG and a bunch of the inserts that they were talking about, the 90s inserts. I fell in love, the Jambalayas and, the Noise Boys and the Golden Touch and all those dope inserts. I was like, man. So I was like, I want to do that. So then I start checking the prices for the Jordans. And I know you got in right before the boom, and you got a lot of those inserts. But when I went to look at them, those prices were ridiculous. And I was like, that's not going to work for me. So I'm going to need to get somebody that I like, that I love, and get the same inserts, but I'm not going to be able to afford the Jordan. So it kind of clicked in my head. I was like, I highly doubt anybody's collecting Allen Iverson. I think I might be the only one. And boy, was I wrong. I got on Instagram. I never had a social media account other than Facebook with my wife. We shared it, but I wasn't really a big social media guy. So I got on the Instagram, and I just put in Allen Iverson just to see if anybody had anything. And it was like about 1,000 Allen Iverson accounts. And I always go back to the one guy was the Philly card collector, who was kind of my inspiration. And when it comes to Allen Iverson collection, he's like the who's who, and he had anything and everything. And it was just amazing what this guy's collection that he had. So I was kind of like, it was almost like a virtual checklist that I was going down. I was like, okay, check, got that one, check, got that one. And then that's basically how it all started.
Talk a bit, Tony, about how, I did put this as the title, coming full circle in the hobby. That's something that we discussed the other night. Tony, what did you guys mean by that? And just describe how it relates to your relationship with Oz.
Yeah. So basically we're 4 years apart. So now it doesn't seem like a lot, but when Oz was 16 and I was 12, those are two different worlds. He's already into girls and all that stuff. And I'm just, playing with the Nintendo up above my head over here. So, back then we were just living two different lives in two different worlds. Fast forward, we talk here and there, but it was not, like it is now, not even close. So, he introduces me to the hobby. Basically, the one day we're watching a game and, he shoots over a picture of a card. I'm like, what the heck is that? He's like, I collect cards. I'm like, you're stupid. Yeah. I was like, because coming up, I used to collect too, but then I just thought once I got to high school, like card collecting just totally died. I didn't even know it was still a thing. So he's like, yeah, I collect cards, and looks like, okay, dude, whatever. So, but eventually, he wears me down, and we start collecting, and now we're talking, daily, regular, all the time. We're talking about cards, and what happens now is we're growing a lot closer, and that is basically the gist of our show, because we'll get into that, but we talk about the relationships and people. So the whole coming full circle with that is just that we're a ways away from each other years ago. Now, fast forward, we're constantly talking about cards. We're sharing our mail days. We're helping each other out with, we're bouncing ideas off of each other with, hey, what do you think about this purchase? Or what do you think about this trade or whatever? And it's awesome to have someone to bounce that off. Someone who I feel I can trust 1,000%. Because if it's somebody on the internet, yeah, we talk a lot, but I don't really know you other than your persona on the internet. This guy, if something happens, I can just go down to his house and be like, dude, what the heck's your problem? So, that's, so it's awesome just having that person that you can, trust and build in the hobby.
So yeah, it's for sure always good to have someone that you can trust, because it's, when you're actual cousins, that's something that you pretty much know you guys can trust each other. Tony, Oz obviously can talk. We've seen that already tonight. Was he always this outgoing and he seems like quite the extrovert? Talk a little bit about how he was, growing up, and touch too, Tony, a little bit on your relationship with him. Were you guys always this close, or did the podcast and the hobby make you guys closer than you'd ever been? So two things: closer than you'd ever been now because of the podcast, and has he always been this outgoing?
Yeah, so close. Yeah, definitely closer now than we've ever been. When I was a kid, I hated this guy.
God's the honest truth.
So I just thought he was a jerk, because he would just always treat me like a little punk, and maybe I was a little punk, so maybe I deserve some of it, but still, that's neither here nor there. But I says he was an introvert. I see it as he was just a jerk, but he just says it that way. But again, we're living two different worlds. It was just with 4 years. It's wild how just that little bit of time, but it's just depending what ages you are, it could just be millions. It might as well be millions of years. So yeah, it's one of those things where, now it's, again, I talk to him more than my wife. It's not even close. Like, yeah, sometimes I see him more than I see my wife in passing. I'm like, hey, honey, I'm like, where are you going? She's like, oh, podcast. She's like, oh, geez, all right, here we go again. So yeah, it's awesome. And like I said, I'll let him tell his version of the story. He might have a little bit of a different version, but mine is the truth.
I mean, you were a little young, so you might not remember.
Yeah. Go ahead. I want to hear from you first. Because we've talked about the relationship quite a bit. I want to hear from you about, were you quieter as a kid, and if you were, what happened? Like, how did the podcast help you with that? Let's say so.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I'm gonna be honest, Jeremy, I was the shyest kid in the room. we'd be at family events and I'd just want to be the wallflower. The only thing honestly that ever got me out on events was dancing. My two favorite things was sports and it was dancing. If you got me onto a basketball court or onto a field, I would just transform. It was almost like Brian Dawkins from, coming out of the tunnel and ready to play football. And I transformed. But if you got me into a social situation where it's just people, and even if it was family or just, God forbid it was strangers, I always felt like nothing that I said, nobody wanted to hear. Like, it was just like, whatever, I'm invisible. So it took me a long time to come out of my shell. And this podcast, what it's done for me, it's almost been like therapy, honestly, Jeremy, like just being able to talk and what it is, it's the passion that I have, for the sports and for the collecting. So the two combined, it allows me to bring out what I have inside of me, because it's tough. If I were to be talking about something else, just something random subject, I probably feel like I wasn't educated enough, or I just, what I had to offer really wouldn't be beneficial to anyone. So I'd kind of like stay quiet and every once in a while chime in. But when, we're talking about these cards and then we're talking about the love of the sports, it's just something in me. I gotta like let it out. I gotta get my opinions out, and you're gonna hear me. You're gonna hear Cousin Oz, and it's my alter ego, and this whole thing. My wife looks at me and she's like, "Well, how do you act like that on there?" And then when you're done, you come up here and you're like dull as hell. You don't say anything. You never talk to me. And I'm like, I don't know. Tony brought it out of me, and she's like, yeah, okay, you're full of it. And I'm just like, so it really, though, it really has brought me. We go again back to the full circle. It just, I don't know what it is. It's like the bright lights come on. And there's just certain people that they gravitate towards that, and some people fold. And I like to think that I step up to the plate and try to do the best that I can.
I mean, the hobby's good for that. It's good for bringing people together, whether you're related or not. And now with how tight the community is and how accessible the community is on various platforms, even in person and virtual, lots of opportunities to talk to people and get to know more people and share our common love for cardboard. Let's take a moment and just say hello to, we got a bunch of people here. Jake Dahl, what's going on? Jeff McMahon, Chris C is here. Ronnie, good to see you. Perk, what's happening? Fire Sports Cards, good to see you. Jason Wormy, he got a shout out from Gary V on my show last week. This is a buddy of mine. We call him the Worm Dog. Welcome to the show, Worm Dog. Collector's Dream, what's happening? Craig Shackner, nice to see you. Welcome to the show. Mitch is in the house. Foul Five Ball, that's Jeremy. Good to see you. There's our friend Rob Gerard, the sports card therapist. Somebody that we'll get into him a little bit further because you guys do some collaborations with him. Mm-hmm. He goes on to say, Jeremy with the Cousins is like a clash of two amazing, unique segments of the hobby. Thank you for that, Rob. Collector's Dream agrees, says, continuing to bring on the cream of the crop. There you go, guys. That's really nice. Collector's Dream, this is a nice comment. It says, great to see the cards bringing people together. And, let's face it, it is nice when cards bring people together. There's, we just like in any arena in life, there's divisiveness in our hobby as well as there is in just a normal regular society. So I like this comment because we don't promote the divisiveness here on Sports Cards Live. We promote the inclusion. Chris C says, I wish I had the family dynamic you guys have. Collecting better if you have family involved. Yeah, as long as they're not Cowboys fans. I get that. But yeah, collecting is more fun if you have a really close person involved. It's important. We got Joe Perot in the house. What's going on, Joe?
What's up?
Good to see you, pal. Craven Cards, what's going on? Good evening to you. D. Perez says the Cousins. I don't know if he's talking about you guys or Cousins in general, but let's assume he's talking about both. Very nice. And Steve Clifton, welcome to the show. Okay, guys, I want to move along now. And I mean, it seems like this is going to be, we're going to have a similar theme kind of throughout this episode, but I want to talk a bit about being passionate for the hobby and being passionate for, you can be passionate for the cards. You can be passionate for the team and the players on the cards. A lot of people are passionate for the values of the cards. Where do you guys draw your passion from first and foremost? We're going to start with you, Tony, on this one, and then we'll go to you, Oz.
Sure. So before I completely answer that, I want to back up a little bit because you mentioned Gary Vee. That was another hook that got me into the hobby because of his passion. Oz sent me this. He's like, hey, check this guy out. If after, watch this, you don't want to collect, then fine. So I watched this video. I'm like, I was like, geez, man, this guy, he really knows how to get people amped up. So that was, you want to talk about passion. That guy exudes it. So kudos to him on that. As far as where I draw the passion. Yep, go ahead.
Hold on, before you move on from that. So, because, Gary Vee, and, as you know, he was on with me last week, and I thought we had a great 16, 17-minute interview. It's all the time I was allotted, but, he comes under criticism regularly for various things within the hobby. Fair or not, I mean, I think he gets a bit of a bad rap for things that maybe not deserve it. But what you just said, I think, is where we got to give Gary Vee a lot of credit, because Tony, you are a committed hobbyist right now, not just a collector, but also a content creator in the space. And if Gary Vee had a direct kind of cause of that, then we should be thanking him. And we know that you're not the only one. There's going to be many. He probably attracted some people who were just in it for the money, who are maybe no longer here or converted to being true collectors. I know that happened, but he brought you in. I mean, that right there is a wonderful thing. Oz, I mean, that helps you out as well, right? So yeah, that's a good thing. I just wanted to point that out because, he does get a lot of sort of bad press among certain factions of our hobby. And I think that some of it is probably unwarranted. So with that, sorry, Tony, back to you.
No worries. No worries. And with his message where, I know he gets a lot of flack for the line of cards he put out, or if he talks about a certain card and they say, oh, you're manipulating the market. I just took his passion for, say he mentions whoever, Joe Namath. I don't care about Joe Namath. I don't collect Joe Namath, but that passion for Joe Namath, I can put into Randall Cunningham, Roberto Clemente, guys that I like. So I don't have to follow exactly what he's saying as far as cards go, but the message, sure. And I apply that to this. And I mean, this shoulder here, this drawing here of Roberto Clemente is, you want to talk about passion. That guy represents an entire community of people. And that's, so that is where I draw. When I first started collecting, it was a lot of things that I was buying to flip. I had that mentality of, oh, hey, I'm going to make some money. That, we'll talk about that then, but that went by the wayside. And now I'm like, man, once I started collecting things that have hit me in the feels, totally different level. Now I don't sell any of my cards. Now I just keep collecting. So I got to figure out how to work on that. But it's when I buy a card, I sit at it now and I'm like, man, this is awesome. And I just, now I take care of it. They all have to be in a certain manner. They have to be wrapped the same way. I have a little bit of hobby OCD, and that's okay. But our show, my collection, everything I do is passionate. When I'm watching sports on Sunday, I'm yelling at the screen like I'm spent in a week. The Super Bowl is going to be played, and I know win or lose the Eagles, I'm going to be worth a damn after that game because I'm going to be spent. It's going to be, I'm going to be yelling, I'm going to be screaming, I'm going to be jumping up and down, and that's just who I am, and that's how I collect.
So. That's awesome. I mean, listen, I want to pull out of you, like, what is it that you're passionate about in the hobby? And when you say, you look at a card and it gets you in the feels, I know exactly what you mean by that. I have a reaction sometimes as well. And here, Rob makes the comment too. I don't know what that box is, but feels equals something, So I totally relate to that. Oz, what about you in terms of like passion for the sports cards versus the values? There's so much content out there, charts and graphs and record sales and and record losses that we're seeing on some cards, certain ones that have come down in value from various auction houses and that. What about you? What are you most passionate for not your content? We're going to get to the content a little bit later. What are you most passionate about as a collector of sports cards?
Yeah, see, what I think it comes from is my passion for sports. I love all sports. I mean, I'm not as big a hockey fan as you are, but I dabble, but basketball, football, baseball to a certain degree. But basketball and football are my major ones. So I really love those sports, especially when it comes. You can obviously see I got the Eagles. You know what I mean? I got some Allen Iverson. That's what I grew up on. The Dr. J's, the Charles Barkley. So my dad was a huge Phillies fan. He's passed away since 2015. But anytime I think of baseball, it just brings back those memories and the passion that my dad had for them. So just watching the teams. And then when I said, let me get back into collecting what I want to collect, it's just going to be an extension of what I'm already passionate for, which is going to be my sports teams. And even aside from sports, if I like a certain show, there's cards for everything, Jeremy. You know what I mean? Like for all the pop culture stuff that's out there. I mean, I love that stuff. Anything, the Fonzie, which we talked about when you came on. You know what I mean? I love Arthur Fonzarelli and what he did for me. Like, to me, he was one of my idols growing up, just the coolest dude on the planet. All he had to do was walk into Arnold's. He had, his arms around the two girls. He's bumping the jukebox. The music's coming on. He's snapping his fingers. And I mean, it was just like unbelievable. He's jumping over sharks, and that's where we get the term, once a show jumps a shark, that came from, Happy Days, and then we go from there. We talk about Three's Company, but there's like all kinds of things that I'm so passionate for. Like I said, I love movies. I love sports. So why not be about it? And how do I be about it? I say, okay, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. So if I'm such a huge Allen Iverson fan, I'm going to try to have the biggest, most best Allen Iverson collection. And same thing, I love Stranger Things. That's another thing we'll be talking about. But like, I have a freaking Stranger Things collection that's growing by the day. And it's me and my daughter just going back and forth. I'm getting her involved. She's 11 years old and she's loving every minute of it because dad's coming home every day with a gift for her, but it's honestly a gift for me because I'm just getting a kick out of it. So it's just that passion. And like I said, it's just manifesting those passions into cardboard. And, so that every time you look at it, you're like, damn, I'm getting a physiological response from this, Allen Iverson. And like you said, you just takes you to a place, man.
It really does. You both have mentioned that, you love watching sports. You're fans of all sports. And, I started out that way too as a hobbyist. It was because I was going to hockey games all the time, or I was watching the Blue Jays on TV being in Canada, or I was watching the Detroit Pistons because that was the feed I got where I grew up in Winnipeg. I got Michigan radio. I got Detroit radio. So I was watching those nice highlights, when I bought my first little TV to sit in my bed, when I, from my paper route money. Like, anyway, I agree. You can be a card collector and not know a ton about sports. It depends what you're collecting. You might collect your favorite team or collect the players that are the most legendary. But how important is it really to be a sports fan? Or because I don't want anyone to think that you have to be a diehard sports fan in order to be like allowed to collect cards or to be accepted into this community. I certainly don't think that's the case. Some people just love cards for cards. And even for myself, I went from, sports first, cards second, to now it's cards first, sports second. I spend more time consuming card content than I do watching actual games on TV or wherever, like way more now. So it's, you follow the stats and everything, but for you guys, Oz, like, how do you feel that you would be a card collector if you weren't as much into the sports? Or is it the sports that is it being a fan of sports that really fuels your card collecting passion?
I think it's a little bit of both. But when it comes to cards, I think a lot of it has to do with nostalgia as well. And we just talked about the fields with Rob, putting up the little emoji. It's just those emotions, like, and again, it goes back to that physiological response. Going back to your childhood is such a powerful emotion, and it just brings back so many memories. And it's like I always talk about, like a dopamine, adrenaline rush, and just looking at certain things, and it takes you back to those, times when, let's times were better back in the day. When you were a kid, you didn't have the worries that you have as an adult. You're just out there, you're waking up, you're getting something to eat, and your mom, I'll be back, make sure you're back before, when the lights come on at night, I need you back in the house. All right, cool. I took my basketball, got on my bike, went down, played basketball all day, watched some sports when I came back. And then you just, you start collecting these cards of your heroes that you grew up. Like I said, the Dr. J's, the Barclays and the Allen Iversons. So now that I have these, and you look at them, and we got them all nice and they're graded and high values. It really doesn't. Do I want my collection to be worth something? Yes, obviously everybody, we're putting serious money. It's not like we're just going ahead and our collections are worth $10. No, we're spending 1,500, 3,000, 6,000. Sometimes, God knows, we don't even want to say, you're spending the amount of a car on particular cards, which is ridiculous. Because if my wife would hear me right now, she'd slap me across the face. Like, what did you say? No, nothing. But that's what, we always talk about leveling up and on those things in the hobby. But, these cards, yeah, you want the values to be there. But at the end of the day, I get more of that, that passion, that emotion. And like you said, that response, like just looking at those cards, that means more to me than say, because honestly, you can't take, unless you're a flipper, unless you're constantly in the business of going ahead, getting the cards and selling them, getting the cards, you're setting up at a show, you're a dealer, dealer, flipper, however you want to portray yourself. But you're in the process of getting these cards and reselling them. Aside from that, just as being a collector by itself, the just basically these cards, they mean a lot more to you than just the value.
Right. No, for sure. Okay. So Leighton Sheldon has joined us. He is in the back room. Leighton, I see you there. We'll bring you out in just a moment. And it's actually a good segue because the next question I was going to ask to you guys was really about the community within our hobby and the community that you guys and the communities that you guys have really found yourself being accepted by and becoming a part of. And then you also made the comment about, whether you're someone who's buying and selling, like Leighton is in the business. He's got a couple of businesses in the hobby, so he buys and sells cards. And but he's also a very passionate collector. So I want to include both of those topics within this part. So I'm going to bring him out, but we're going to hear from you guys sort of first on the community piece, and then I want Leighton to give us his view from the vintage perspective because he travels in. Like Rob Gerard said earlier in the comments, there's different sort of, and how did he put it? He said different, he said this one here, unique segments of the hobby. There's fun. It's funny. There are unique segments of the hobby, but there is overlap because we're not forced to only collect vintage or modern or ultra modern. People can cross and do it all. So before I bring Leighton out very quickly, I do want to say hello to Diamond Card Collector. Welcome to the show. Rob says that Clemente is a legend. I think we can all agree with that. And Chris says, I think your Eagles win it all, but I'd be happier if they didn't because my Mahomes rookies will dip. Kobe I collect, and he was from Philly, if memory is correct. Yep. Laura Marion, hi. Kobe gave Iverson props also. Very nice. Steve Clifton here says, so true about nostalgia. I started a Pete Rose PC because he was my favorite player as a kid. Recall late nights on the porch with my dad listening to Reds games when Pete was chasing DiMaggio. That's a really good memory, Steve Clifton. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we've got the Currency Project in the house. If you're not following these guys on Instagram, you need to. They do some really cool card art work. All right, with that, Leighton, there you are. Welcome back to the show. It's been 8 days. We did a special episode last Friday together, talking about your road trip to Florida. You went on a buying trip to pick up inventory for Just Collect, your store, your online business, and also Vintage Breaks, your vintage breaking business. Welcome back. How are you doing on this fine Saturday, sir?
I'm great. A little cold here in the Northeast. I appreciate you having me on. What's up, gentlemen? It's nice to meet you guys.
How you doing, Leighton? Here.
Good, thanks.
So, Leighton, thanks for coming on. I wanna go back to Tony and Oz for a moment, and we're gonna talk about the community a little bit and just kind of freestyle with it. Tony, why don't we go back to you? Talk a bit about listen, you have your very close community with you and Oz, and then you've got also I would say from only my perspective, your next level, which would be maybe the Wolf Pack, that is like this group of content creators that you've linked up with, including Rob Gerard and others. And then there's the overall community when you go to card shows and online. So speak a bit towards the community and really the importance of it and how much you enjoy it.
Yeah, the overall community has been awesome. So we, like I said, we have our little group, but then it's expands. So I collect some vintage and some 90s stuff and a little bit of modern. I just have one or two cards. So I kind of dabble in, I see all three communities. And from day one, I haven't had a bad thing to say about anyone in the community. I mean, we've been welcomed with open arms. We've met people at the shows, that's my favorite part. So I'm going to the show tomorrow and I can't wait. If I don't pick up a card, so what? But I've told my wife, I'm like, man, I can't wait to see some of my hobby friends. Like, these are people that I meet online and I've seen at other shows. And that's so much fun. And when you talk to people who are in cards, it's almost like, you've known each other forever. You just, hey, what do you collect? What do you collect? And then you just run a whole sweet conversation from there. And before you know it, you're there 20, 30 minutes. You haven't bought a card and like, oh man, I should probably get to moving. But then you go, a couple booths over and it's the same thing again. And it's great. And we have it online, but when it's in person, I think it's like nothing beats that. I'm definitely looking forward to doing that tomorrow. And as far as, we have that wolf pack, that's a whole nother thing too. You want to talk about a group that we can bounce ideas off of each other like me and Oz do, but now it's next level where it's like you have all these other content creators and they see things a lot different. We have a couple guys that they sell and flip cards, so they're looking at it from a dealer aspect. We have guys that just collect, and when we're having these conversations, they're awesome because with all these different points of views, you're like, oh man, I didn't think of that way, and it helps build. It's helped me be a better collector, a better content creator, because that's always something we strive for. So overall, the community it's always just something that I look forward to. That's probably more fun than the cards itself sometimes.
Yeah, it comes back to the hobby being the people in many ways, the cards, the people. Leighton, you've been in the hobby for as long as I have. I mean, it's a long time. You've been in the hobby a long time, but you've been in the hobby really, as you call yourself, a baseball card treasure hunter. Can you speak a bit to the community, Leighton, that, amongst your peers, how has it evolved in the last 10 years? And how has it evolved even in the last couple of years as the hobby's gone through this resurgence, based, from when the pandemic really started? A little bit about that, if you don't mind, just to do some comparing and contrasting to kind of some of the newer communities that have come about. Sure.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I do think some of it is similar to what Tony was just sharing. It came out of the vintage card space for me versus, let's say, more modern cards. But the reality of it is, and I had a couple of notes before I'd come on and made a couple of notes while everyone was chatting. I think no matter what genre you're in, modern, vintage, if you're a content creator, if you work for an auction house, I was thinking about this the other day when I met someone for the first time, unrelated to the hobby, and I was explaining to them, when I graduated Rutgers College in 2000, to me it doesn't seem that long ago. I realized to my son Crosby, who's 8, that seems like a very long time ago because it's more than his lifetime. So I think everything's about perspective. And so for me, the hobby, the business of the hobby, then the hobby itself has come so far in just that time. And that was after, I'd already enjoyed it, saw the birth of grading and PSA. And so kind of what I'm getting to is we're all coming about it from like a different perspective. But the reality of it is we're all ending up in like this big pot of stew. And so it doesn't really matter if it's vintage. It doesn't matter if it's modern. And like I said, without sounding like a broken record, it really doesn't matter where you're coming from. As Tony said, like, hey, when I go to a card show, I'll be honest, Tony, like, I do this for a living. So I do hope to buy some cards to eventually sell them. But thankfully, in my old age or older age, I've begun to smell the roses a little bit more. Not just the baseball card shows, which, to be honest with you, doesn't always smell so good. But, outside of there, point being is being appreciative and being grateful. And so when I go to a card show, it no longer becomes mandatory. Like, wow, if I don't spend $5,000, it wasn't deemed successful, right? It's not like that at all. It's more a matter of like, wow, do I get to experience it with my son? Awesome. Am I going to introduce him to 2 or 3 of my dealer friends / like hobby friends today? Wow, that seems really fulfilling to me. And so I think the way you were just describing a few minutes ago, Tony, I don't begrudge someone who wants to flip. I mean, I'm going to buy and I might sell that piece eventually, right? And that's how we pay our employees at our companies. But I'd also say, and you were talking about like what's happened in recent years. So in recent years, because I got into breaking on the vintage break side, there's this whole new community of folks who were kind of already collecting vintage. They didn't really all know they wanted to do it. And then they all found each other through this community. And I think that's really interesting as well. And I think that's happened across the way. Jeremy, for example, like people who like your show and like your podcast, all of a sudden you notice maybe similar names every week that are in the chat. And they may not know each other. But if you run into them at a show and they run into you, they're definitely going to recognize you, Jeremy. I've seen it. You're pretty tall. So, you know, point being is that it is what you want to make of it. So if you want to keep your head down and you just want to collect, what's super cool is no one's going to judge you, or they shouldn't, right? If someone wants to go to a convention and they got their pen in their ear and they got their notebook and they're very serious about like they're buying, or for that matter, they're collecting, I don't judge. I know sometimes I'm in a zone and people are like, hey, Leighton, I screamed your name across the room. Like, you know, I don't know. It's really focusing on the Shaq Robinson card. I'm sorry. But, you know, it's the truth. So the point being is, like, you know, listen, it is what you make of it. It's really fun to hear different angles and perspectives, you know, but I think ultimately, like I said, we're kind of all in this big pot of stew together. And it's fun to be asked to be on for a few minutes, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh no. I love your perspectives, Leighton, and you know you just bring it from a different angle than Tony and Oz do right now, or even myself tonight. Oz, let's hear from you on this. You know, you've heard from your cousin Tony, from Leighton, a bit of myself. What would you like to say on this topic?
I mean, like you said, it's a very tasty stew. It's something that I continue to eat every day, and it keeps getting better and better. Never gets stale, goes bad. It's just, listen, the Wolf Pack, for example, we have a real therapist, Rob Gerard, sports card therapist. Ken Karen, sports card lessons. He's a retired teacher. Craig Shackner, New York City Sports Cards. He's a teacher. You have Carmine Jemmy from Carmine's Cards. He's a news and a sports broadcaster. All right. You have Dave Sylvester, who's DJ Sports Cards, another teacher. Then you have Shane Norton, who works for ESPN, you know, behind the scenes cameraman. It's like, I'm a mailman. Tony, again, I don't know what you do, but no, I'm just kidding. He works for Goya Foods, and I think he sells beans or something like that. Is that how that goes?
Like that.
Yeah. So, and then he also runs, you know, basketball tournaments on the East Coast. You know, for what is that?
Yeah, we can't give them a commercial, so go ahead.
No, but I'm just saying for the kids, what's that called?
Yeah, youth, AAU sports. Youth sports.
Yeah, AAU sports. So up and down the East Coast, Tony runs tournaments for that, which I think is awesome as well. But, you know, we're from all different parts, you know, teachers, therapists, basketball tournament guy, mailman, and we're all getting together because of these cards. And we just get in, and it's just like a bunch of guys just having fun. We're getting in the DMs. We're talking about cards. We're talking about life. And besides that, once you start doing this content and you have the community, the people that listen to you, and they start hitting you up in the DMs, like there's nothing greater on a Monday. We know once we release an episode, the DMs start flooding in from people. Either, you know, most of the time they love it. Sometimes they don't, but just getting that feedback, it's just like, you know, feels like you're the richest man alive. You know, and it does, like, you could care less about the values of anything. Just getting that feedback from people that actually, you know, took the time to spend an hour listening to you, which is nuts. It blows my mind every time I think about it. But the fact that they say, oh man, this is good. Let me go on Instagram and say, hey guys, great episode. You guys are cool. And it's like, whew, I'm there doing my mail. And Tony's like, yo, I just got this one. And it's just like, now I start whistling. Now I'm dancing, and everybody's looking at me like, "What the hell's your problem? Don't worry about me. I'm good to go."
Pep in your step, right?
Yeah.
Pep in your step as you're delivering that mail.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It is great to get feedback as a content creator, and you know, to take it just one level past that is, it's great when someone sends you a message and then they say, you know, I learned something, or you opened my eyes to something, or you know, you like that. That's the feedback that we receive sometimes, that is the fuel that keeps guys like us going and continuing to create more and more content. Leighton, I just want to go back to you for a second, because before you came on, the three of us were on here talking, and I don't know if you'll remember, but there were 2 times when I saw you chuckling back there Sorry to put you on the spot, but do you remember what it was that had you kind of laughing in the background there?
No, I mean, maybe I can look at my notes and try to figure it out. Oh, I think one of them, yes. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think it might have been you, Oz, who made a comment about like you really like to buy and you don't like to sell, and that could be a problem. And and so you realize like I'm not a mailman, and so I kind of wish I was, because it's probably pretty good benefits, pretty steady pay. And the point is like, if you want to buy the cards and not sell them, it's not an issue. So can you imagine if you're a professional card treasure hunter, but yet you don't want to sell your treasure? It's kind of like, it's a problem. Like I like to eat, I'm 6'1". My son is 8. He's growing. He doesn't play AAU yet, but he does play baseball and, a bunch of other different things. And like, we need food.
Yeah.
Maybe Goya can make a donation. I'm not sure. But all kidding aside, because I could chat for hours with you guys, seem real friendly and down to earth and easy to get along with. I kind of wanted to leave you with this thought, Jeremy, Oz, and Tony, is, for myself personally, a lot of change in the last year or so. Something I've incorporated in my personal life is a gratitude list. Okay. I can't say I do it every day. I wish I did, but I do it most of the time. And something I've done recently, just as a small little note, is that instead of doing it, for example, like on my phone in the notes section, I've actually taken it now down to like a journal / like a notebook, and it definitely feels different, like a little bit nicer to be detached from the phone. So the reason why I bring it up is this. We're talking about the hobby, and I think no matter what angle we're going to come at it from, content creators, so on and so forth, I think that we can all agree it would be kind of fun, whether it be it's weekly, it's monthly, we get something going on IG, where it is actually a hobby gratitude list. It doesn't have to look too much different than your gratitude list per se, but I can tell you I wrote down a few, and I don't really need to glance at it because they're pretty easy for me. And I won't name names, so as you said, Tony, I like your saying, there won't be any free commercials for people. But like, for example, one buddy who I do a bunch of business with, we play tennis probably every week to every 10 days. And like, that definitely would have never happened with a hobby. I might have played tennis against someone else because I'm an avid tennis fan and I love to play. But the reality of it is, like, we actually have done deals in the parking lot of this tennis club, and it's hysterical. And so the second thing is, when I travel, I have this like newfound, like, you know what? I might go to this area because my buddy Jim owns a record shop. And, maybe instead of like going to a hotel to rent a conference room, I'll do it at his record shop. We'll do some deals. We'll film it. And like, that's not possible if you don't really immerse yourself in what you do. In other words, we all do something for a living, but yet if you're really passionate about, that's how these opportunities, arise. And believe me, I continue to go on and on. But I just want to share with you, my quick take on that.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Well, thanks, Leighton. Appreciate your insights as always. And thanks for popping in.
Yeah, it was really nice to meet you, Tony and Oz. Thanks for having me, Jeremy, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
And you guys are all East Coast, so Philly, Jersey, not that far away from. Maybe you'll see each other at a show. Make sure you guys all say hello to each other when you see them.
All right.
See each other there.
Absolutely, it's really nice meeting you guys.
Same here.
All right, thanks, Leighton. All right, I want to welcome Baz. Good to see you, the baseball card curmudgeon. Too Thick Pod says, awesome, Tony are awesome guys, but unfortunately they never pick up the bill. I could go on to the next comment, or I could let you respond to this. Tony, Oz, you got something to say?
Yeah. Those guys, we don't even know those guys. No, they're awesome. That's why those guys we met through cards.
Mm-hmm.
And they are our friends. I have no problem saying they are our friends. And if, like Leighton was saying, a lot of this stuff, I wrote it down. The cards, if not for the cards, a lot of things don't happen to us, for us, things like that. And meeting those guys, if not for the cards, we don't meet those guys. Jeremy, Manny, and Courtney, awesome people. And again, it's all starts from the cards. If we didn't collect cards, we would have never met them. We're looking forward to seeing them at the National. We're looking forward to running up another bill and running out on them. So, get ready, fellas.
Well, and we're staying at the house too. So just in case you guys didn't know, we didn't book a hotel. We're staying with you guys. So
I haven't. I'm aware of Too Thick Pod, but I haven't. I don't think I've met them. If I have, I apologize at a show. Perhaps I have without knowing that it was them. But you'll have to introduce me to them. If they're friends of yours, hopefully they can be friends of mine.
You'll know if you meet Jeremy. He's just a big cuddly teddy bear, and he likes to give bear hugs from behind. So he's a great guy. And Manny's just funny. And Courtney's she's the one that really wears the pants in the family. She runs everything. She does everything behind the scenes, and she's actually coming out with a podcast on her own. So shout out to Courtney, and then the other guys, they're kind of like side pieces.
Is that the one that they're looking at kind of some like crime in that?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen
Dangerous Minds podcast. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I've seen some.
Yeah, it's like sports cards, crime, and murder, and all kinds of craziness. And I'm all about it.
Yeah, that seems like a really a unique angle, a real creative angle. So kudos to them, and look forward to watching or listening to some of those shows. I want to go to Chris C here. Says, I started collecting in 1987. Nolan Ryan was my first player I went after. Fanatics should put random meet and greet player cards in packs for kids. Have cheap exclusive packs for kids. Growth is key. All fair points. Can't really well said, Chris. I think everyone's in agreement with the basic sentiment of that message. Josh Dawson is in the house. Josh, good to see you, pal. We're gonna see you at the Mint Collective and the National, of course. Darren in the house. What's going on, Darren? Junk Wax Museum says selling cards is an art in itself. Sometimes it's very hard to determine value when there are no comps. I once heard I was at the National. This goes back, I don't know, maybe 2018 or 19. I remember I was kind of looking at a guy's booth, and he was talking amongst his people, and he was basically putting out a challenge. He said, I can comp any card, is what he said. Because there might not be that exact card that's sold, there's going to be something. There's going to be some way to take maybe a card from a similar set or a card of that player and maybe a third card that is related, triangulate the data and come up with something. And I thought, it makes sense to me. Like, there aren't always going to be direct comps, but there are indirect comps. And I think we just came out with some nomenclature right there. Direct and indirect comps, right? Indirect comps is an art in and of itself. Simple comps or direct comps are kind of that's the easy stuff, right? Anyone can look that up, but indirect comping is a bit more difficult. So anyway, nice little tangent right there. And then Chris goes on. Chris C here says, I rarely sell anything, but comps are often times misleading and sometimes even shilled, unfortunately, of course. And I agree with that completely. They're off. He says they're often misleading, and they can be, especially like if a card sells at 4 a.m. Sometimes some people just don't list them all. Mark Santucci, welcome to the show. Okay, well let's move on to the next topic that I have on my notes, guys, which is really like what you are collecting, and do you have any cards you want to show? I know Tony, you do. Roberto Clemente is your main PC, the main focus of your collecting. Oz, you're Allen Iverson, as you've said earlier. Did you guys? Do you have any cards out that you can just show the crowd and we can take a look at some, and then we'll move on?
Yeah,
go first.
Yeah, we always have some handy. I'll say first, that's the first time I've heard nomenclature on a podcast, sports podcast. We always get one weird word that we, last time it was plethora. This time, so
good. I hope I used it right.
Nomenclature. Yes.
Nomenclature. Yeah, none of us are English team. Well, maybe Oz was, but yeah. So I collect Roberto Clemente, and I have a couple here. This is my first. I have what I call two segments of Roberto Clemente. His regulars. I'm trying to complete the whole run, of his first cards. But then I have what I call shiny Clemente stuff, and this is my first super refractor of his. This is 2021 Topps Chrome, the platinum anniversary. See it there, and the thing is
so nice. I love the platinum anniversary product.
I do too. I think it's a really nice, that. With it mimicking the 52 top set. But yeah, I mean, when you see it shine, but yeah, this thing came up and I was like, yeah, I have to have this. It was just one of those cards where it was definitely.
What's it number to?
This is the 101.
That's the 101 super fractor. It's not oh wow. Yeah, show it again, please.
Yep. Sure.
I mean, that is just, I love the 52 design. I love the, putting that superfractor stock on a 52 design, it kind of makes you think, what if,
Yes.
what if there were 101s? And
Yeah.
I'm seeing some people put that on Instagram now. They're taking like a 48 leaf Jackie Robinson, superimposing a superfractor background and saying, what would this be worth if it was real, And
Yes.
that's a beautiful card. Do you have another to show?
Yep, sure. Yeah. That's like I said, that's one of my favorite cards here. This next one here was the first 101 that I picked up of Clemente at the most recent national. And this one has a 3-color patch. It's National Treasures.
No.
And you'll
Before
see.
you show it,
Sure.
I just want to call something out here, Tony, which is
Yep.
I'm watching you talk about it and you're sitting there looking at the card and I'm thinking we want to see the card too, but you love it so much you can't stop looking. You don't want us to see it, you want to look at it for yourself.
Right. Yeah. So I'm gonna first I'll describe it and I'll show it to you, because I'm like, some of these cards I haven't looked at in a while, so it's very nice to see. Like I said, this is a 3-color patch 101, and you'll see it here.
Arriba.
Yeah, and that says arriba, which arriba means go forward. And that was one of his nicknames. So when I had no intention of buying, looking for this, and I saw it at the national, and I was like, yeah, I have to. This is another one of those cards where it just, like I always say, it hits you in the feels. And when I saw it, it's like, yeah, I got to get that.
Is that a piece of game-worn patch from the Pittsburgh Pirates?
Yes. Yep. It's got the black, gold, and the white.
Wow.
Game used.
There cannot be too many game used patch Roberto Clemente cards in existence.
That was my thinking when I picked this up. I don't know. Maybe someone in the comments does. But yeah, this is I don't know if someone asking if it's a game worn jersey. I don't know if it's I would tend to think it's part of the lettering on the jersey, because they used to have the black lettering with the gold.
And it's from 2014 when Panini was a little bit more kind of clear about what the source of the memorabilia was. What does it say on the back in terms of
it says the enclosed game used material is guaranteed by Panini America.
They just don't tell you who
doesn't say
player wore it or what team or what league or
no, it just says enclosed game used material. So
well, I think we have to assume it was game used by Roberto Clemente.
Yeah, for the sake of the conversation, I have 2 more here. One is actually not a card. This is actually my first auto of Clemente, and it's off of a baseball there.
Yeah.
So
that's leather.
Yeah, that's a piece. Yeah, it's off of the baseball was kind of ripped, where he signed it, and they just cut it out and put it there. So
that's a true, people talk about cut autographs or baseball cuts. That's a baseball cut auto.
Yeah.
That's a baseball, that's a dead baseball cut.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And the next one is my favorite card in my collection that I picked up at the most recent national. And this is the rookie. As you see, it's a PSA 5. Pretty nice centering, a little light at the bottom there. But this card I must have looked at about 1,000 copies before I pulled the trigger on this one. And it's my favorite card in my collection.
Yeah, so it's such a historical piece, and you showed that to me the other day, and I own a copy of that. Mine is PSA 6, and I think I would trade you straight up for yours because your 5 is nicer than my 6, like legit. So again, buy the card, not the grade, sort of thing. Yes. But congrats on a couple of big acquisitions last year at last year's national. It just goes to show that the big, all card shows are awesome, I feel. But when you go to the biggest of the big card shows, that's where you're going to see the cards that some people will do other shows, but they'll wait for the big one to pull out their real prized possessions. And that's why it's going to the national. Going back to the discussion we were having when Leighton was on about community, the national is kind of like, when I always called them card shows. And here, let me just go back there for a second. Sure. Tony, I always called them card shows because it was about going to look at cards. Now it's more like a card conference because it's not just about being on the show floor during show hours. It's about that, but it's also about all the extracurricular activities. What I mean by that is just dinners, trader nights, other things, whatever they may be, with your new friends in the hobby or your friends in the hobby. and it's so much more than just going to a card show. If someone like last year or the year before kind of put out a video saying why you shouldn't go to the National, I was like, what do you mean? I don't tell people there's no reason not to go to the National unless an emergency comes up or you just can't afford the travel, whatever it might be. But if you can, the National and other big card shows are amazing places to really enhance your overall experience as a participant in this hobby.
Yeah.
Oz, before we go and look at some of your Iverson cards, I just want to run through some comments here, and then we'll do that. So get ready. Diamond Card Collector was looking at your Clemente cards, Tony. Roberto Mark says Clemente cards are very cool. Yes. Darren, I think we addressed that. It is game worn. Jake says it's a beautiful rookie. Mark says a player grade for Clemente. I don't know what that means, a player grade for Clemente. Chrissy liked it as well. And Mark said, meeting you at the Sheraton. Yes, Mark, exactly. meeting fellow hobbyists. And, when you do host a show like the three of us do, or you're part of content, people do recognize you that you don't recognize because we don't see our audience's faces when we're doing these things, right? But they can see ours. So I always say, please introduce yourself. Say hello. If you watch what I'm doing, if you like what I'm doing, I want to meet you. I mean, you people feel like they know us a little bit because they can watch hundreds of hours of us.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go both ways until you actually have that in-person introduction or a Zoom call or whatever, or come on each other's shows or go on a show. Anyway, Oz, back to you. You got some Iverson cards to talk about. Maybe tell a little story on.
All right. Well, first off, the first card that I purchased that really meant something to me. Like, it was before this, I was on Facebook groups doing like $15 purchases, $20 purchases, and God forbid a $50 purchase. That was like the highest I would go because I had no idea what I was doing and I didn't want to, break the bank. So the one day I'm just chilling in my man cave and I said, you know what? I'm just going to go all out and I'm going to get me a card that I've been wanting. And it's a Charles Barkley rookie. And I look it up on eBay and I wanted to get a Gem Mint 10. And so I got it. And then when I got it in, I realized it wasn't a Gem Mint 10. It was a Gem Mint 10 on the autograph only. So it was an autograph Charles Barkley rookie card with the Gem Mint 10 of the auto. But to me now, this means more because I know Charles Barkley actually had this card in his hand and signed it physically. So there's, thousands of these Charles Barkley rookie cards. But, Charles actually had that in his hand. And this was my first man crush with Sir Charles when it came to that.
Like on the PSA population report, on the PSA DNA portion of it, how many 86 Fleer Barclays they have registered as autographed?
I checked them, but I couldn't tell you. I remember checking the one time, but I don't remember what it was. That's a good question. I got to look at that.
Yeah, because you said he held that card. There are tens of thousands of that card out there.
Yeah.
But how many did he actually touch? And that's what does separate it from the regular ones.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I remember just specifically shaking in my boots purchasing this. It was $1,000. I was like, while my wife was upstairs, I'm hearing her footsteps.
We're getting hugs from Brazil.
Oh wow.
Okadespum, welcome and thank you for hugs.
That's pretty good, right. Jeremy. That was good. So this one is actually my first. I wanted to get a pristine 10, and this right here is that's the Metal Universe Titanium. Are you gonna?
There you go.
There we go. So it was almost a black label. The only thing what I believe was the surface that was a 9.5. Everything else was a 10. I don't know how they figured the corners. I guess it does have 4 corners because this particular insert is oval, and then it has like the 4 corners are here. So, but yeah, just to get a pristine 10, I always wanted to get a black label, but usually those things are crazy expensive. But I just love this titanium, these 90s inserts. The Metal Universe is always pretty cool.
Yeah, that's I have a Michael Jordan of that card. It's a really cool card. I want to just point out, you said you wanted a black label. Every BGS 10 that is not a black label is 0.5 away from a black label.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. not everybody realizes that there's only one subgrade combination that
Mhm.
can be a pristine 10 that is not black, and that's 3 10s and a 9.5.
There you go. So now I have one of my favorite die cuts. It's the 1998 Hoops Prime Twine. I mean, the intricacy of this die cut is just ridiculous. You know, and again, Allen Iverson, that's my guy. So that's in a mint 9.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It's
and
a
this
funny
is out of 415 out of 500.
Yeah, it's a funny story how he picked that up. You might want to tell that real quick.
Yeah, so we were at the Philly show, and I'm going through dollar boxes, not trying to spend any money. Tony's down a little bit further. He comes back to me. He's like, bro, he's like, you better go down there and you better look in that case. And if you ain't going to get it, I'm going to get it. And I'm like, here we go. So I went down to the case, and there it was, bang. And I look at him, he looks at me. He's like, I'm telling you, if you don't buy it, I'm going to buy it. So you better make a choice right now. And so if you want to talk about peer pressure, and I was like, well, I'm not going to let you get it. I'm the Allen Iverson collector. So I went ahead and purchased it, and I tried to work a deal as best as I could. Like the dealer had left, and I was dealing with his wife. She had to call him up. What's the best you can do on that? And so that one, yeah, I definitely love that card. Of course, the classic Noise Boys.
Oof, one of my favorites.
Yeah. You know all about that, Jeremy. You know, you can't talk about the 90s without having, you know, the Noise Boys insert.
Have you ever held one of those that wasn't graded, just a raw
I know
copy?
No, but I seen they're like very like flexible, and you
could basically like fold it like this is a I won't ruin this card, but you could fold it like and it'll snap back into position.
I seen somebody doing that. I was like, oh, you're crazy. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then these were actually the 2013 Upper Deck all-time greats. I have the Bill Russell, and I also have the Julius Erving. These are two that I picked up at the National. They're out of 35, and then, you know, they're both in their college uniforms. I believe at the time the NBA license had gone to Panini. So Upper Deck, they were still producing the cards. So I love these signatures in the gold. And, you know, two of the greatest of all time, they were sitting next to each other. And I saw it. I was like, man, I got to have those.
That's funny how that can happen. You see a card in a showcase, and if it's on its own, like surrounded by cards from other sets, you know, other eras, it might not catch your eye. But you put a pair of cards beside each other.
Yeah,
that's a real good sales strategy, by the way, for anyone who sells.
Yeah, I mean, well, you got Dr. J and Bill Russell. Like
your potential customer is going to want both of them, not just one. You know.
And I looked, and they're both pop ones. So I was like, yeah, give me that one. Give me that one. That's the best you can do.
You have anything else you want to show?
Yeah, I got the Golden Touch. You know, again, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this. That's the Allen Iverson version.
Yeah.
And
I think they did that.
Yep. And then my last one is actually something totally different. I'm a huge Stranger Things fan, and this is my 11 mint 9. There's I think a pop report of 7 of these, and I actually have 2 of them. So 2 of the 7.
Ooh.
And there's none higher. And this is from the Stranger Things collection. That was the promo set that was at the National that I collected, that my daughter actually pulled this card out of one of the sets. So she's like I said, huge Stranger Things fan. So this means a lot to me.
Are those Zero Cool cards?
Yes, these are all Zero Cool cards. I have the entire, you know, set basically is all here. We just got back from PSA. There's 18 cards. And the main thing was actually this card right here was the set. I mean, the card that you had to pull, the redemption card. There was only 11 of these. And this particular card, my daughter had picked. I don't know if you were familiar with this. You were at the National, right? Okay. Did you know about the vending machine that they had there, the Stranger Things?
And I heard about it. I never.
Yeah. So it was just like a regular vending machine, Jeremy. You would push the button, you know, A and then 4, and it would pop down. It was only 2 cards in each pack. But the whole thing was, okay, there's only 11 redemption cards. And if you get this redemption card, you'll win a free box of the new Zero Cool that's coming out in a couple months. So my daughter showed up the last day of the National, and I was like, come on. She's, like I said, huge Stranger Things fan. So she's like, Dad, we were hanging out with Courtney, and she's like, I think I want to go pick B4. You know, she was listening to Courtney talk, and she's like, yeah. So she got real strategic. She said B4. I was like, all right, you do B4, I do B5. And she picked B4, and then she actually, she got the redemption card, and she had one of the 11s. So she was cloud nine, man. So that's
Very
always
cool. Made Daddy happy for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, hey, thank you for showing us those cards, Oz. Love lots of comments. We're gonna go to them because we're getting comments on both your guys' cards. So first of all, thanks, Mark, for clarifying. 50's a 5, 60's a 6. Makes sense.
Okay.
Josh Dawson, love Clemente, and on my list to pick up this year. Yeah, that's a should be. It's a pretty important card for sure. Nahuggins tells us that it's 135 PSA DNA Barclays. So that's a way better number than probably the amount of unautographed copies there are on the population report. Jake Merck, welcome to the show. Love Iverson, PC him and Giannis. Two great choices, I would say, right there.
Yeah.
Chris Iverson also played football, and from what I heard, was very talented.
Well, he was a better football player than basketball player. I'm surprised he had to make a decision. But if you've seen him, he was a Virginia State Player of the Year, right?
What was he, a receiver?
No, quarterback.
Oh, okay.
Nasty. Mike Vick was jealous of him. Like, honestly, like straight up. That's no joke. He was sick.
Nice. Josh Dawson says, love that Iverson, Oz. IPC Iverson, also great insert from the 90s. You showed several of them. Darren, I didn't see the comment. I apologize. Goes on to say, Oz, it hurts you to get the job done next week, or does Patty Mahomes get number 2? Yeah. What are your expectations? I mean, you guys are huge Philadelphia Eagles fans. What are you? Where's your head at right now? Where's your head and your heart at right now with respect to the game coming up?
So, real quick before I give you the Mike Tyson's punch out thing, this is, kind of, I don't know if you can see it there, but these are kind of the stickers for Mike Tyson's punch out, and has all the boxers that kind of fought throughout the game. So I just saw that comment there. It's good stuff. I
took down all those boxers back in the day.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oz was. It took me a long time to finally get that, but that's kind of the genesis of why I collect that. That's the first time I ever saw it was as Oz playing it. But with the game, I think we win. I'm not going to be a homer. Maybe I'm a homer, but I think our defensive line is not the defensive line they faced last week. I think our offensive line is better than the line that they faced last week. So that to me is a big key of the game. If we can control both lines of scrimmage, I think we win the game. Yeah. If not, I won't feel too bad because I have a soft spot for the Chiefs and Andy Reid. But I think we win, and fly Eagles fly.
How about you, Oz? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are, listen, Jalen Hurts, beginning of the season, not a lot of people had faith in him. And now that we look on it, he literally went 16-1, lost one game this year. Okay, the Eagles went, what was it, 14-3
something like that
in the regular season, but those 2 losses came when Jalen Hurts got hurt his shoulder in the Chicago Bears game, and he had to sit out, and Gardner Minshew plays for those 2 games. But with him starting 16-1, that's pretty damn good. And the one that they lost could have went either way. It was just turnovers unexpectedly from key players on our team, but not Jalen. So going into this, I'm very confident. Like Tony said, the lines are the key to any. And with Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, you have Andy Reid, who's the architect, and he's always built his teams from the lines inside out. But unfortunately, his team doesn't have the lines that we do, like the Eagles do right now. And I think at the end of the day, it's gonna be a close game. It's gonna be back and forth. But I think we do just enough to win it in the end. We'll see. I'm hoping and praying. I would love to get a second one. That would be awesome. So yeah, all day, Jalen Hurts.
Right. Well, I wish the best for you guys. I don't have a horse in the race, so good luck to you and the Eagles.
For the Eagles, might as well.
Yeah. Brendan Ryan, welcome to the show. Chris C wants to know, Oz, do you have the star date 96, 97?
I had it and I sold it at one of my shows. So that's one I need to get back. But I love that star date. That's a great one too. There's so many. Oh my God, there's so many inserts. It's like you think and then you'll find one another day. Jeremy, you're like the king of 90s inserts. And it's like, man.
The king of 90s inserts is Josh Dawson right here, who says the 96-97 Golden Touch is a great set and much better looking in person. And Josh has quite the collection, so I'm gonna pass that crown over to him that I shouldn't have ever had in the first place. But thank you for the comment, Oz. Darren likes those Tyson stickers. I have the Super Macho Man one. Very good. Goes on to say, I just hope we both get quarterbacks best and their injuries don't factor into it. Yeah, that's for sure. You want to see both teams playing at their best potential with all the best players that they have and that sort of thing for sure. Jake Merck just picked up the Stardate Iverson PSA 10, a Grail card. Well, congrats on getting your Grail, Jake. That's pretty cool.
Wow, that's a big boy right there.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, guys, let's just learn a bit more about what you're doing from the content perspective. People watching might be looking to pick up, but I mean, listen, even myself as a consumer of hobby content, I find that I'll have like 3 or 4 that I watch, and then a few months will go by, a season, 6 months, and then I'll kind of maybe drop 1 or 2, pick up 1 or 2 new ones. I think that's always happening, right? Even I can tell viewers that I have, sometimes I'll see a name in here that I haven't seen in a year or 2 years. Wow. It's like they might have moved on. That's okay. There's lots of content out there. We picked up new ones along the way. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about what you guys are doing. And so first of all, you have what I refer to as your flagship podcast, which is Cousins Collectibles. That is a podcast you guys do together. We spoke about it earlier. I don't know that we need to get in because we've got a bunch of things here, and I'm going to go through them all, and then I'll pass it back to you. So you guys do Cousins Collectibles, the podcast. It is also a video on YouTube podcast, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
You then also do, you guys, are you both or one of you part of the guest, the roster of hosts on Hobby Hotline? Is it both of you or just one of you? It's both.
Yep.
Hobby Hotline, I used to be in that rotation. I haven't been for about 1.5 years now, but I spent about 1.5 years, I think, as part of the Hobby Hotline crew. Great crew over there. So that's really cool. You also are part of the Wolf Pack. We talked about it earlier, but the Wolf Pack, from my perspective, Rob Gerard kind of got that thing started and built up and brought you guys all together. And now you guys are doing some Wolf Pack content, its own YouTube channel, its own podcast. You've got like 8 or 9 different guys, and you kind of sub out and have 3 or 4 in every week. And then you guys do a show you call The Faction with Sports Card Nobody. So there's another one you guys are doing. Why don't we just talk? I mean, listen, I have a series of shows that I used to have to keep them on a piece of paper so I remember everything. I still do several. You guys have a whole roster of shows that you do. Oz, talk a bit about that. Being involved in so many different things, and how do you, which are any of your favorite? Do you consider Cousins Collectibles to be like your main flagship show? Just freestyle, please.
Yeah. Cousins Collectibles. That's the main one. That's Tony and I getting together. And our premise was getting collectors onto the show and telling their story, and not just, hey, I got this card and check out this card. And these are the values of this card. No, it was like, dude, what made you get that card? Let's get behind, the psyche of it and how you feel when you look at that card, just to dig a little bit deeper, like what you're doing, Jeremy, with us it's unbelievable, because it's like we get to tell the story that we rarely get to. We've talked about it in the beginning, but once you get past it, you feel like nobody really wants to know those things. But those are the things that really make you the person you are and the collector you are. So that's what our show really concentrates on, and that's the OG. That's what we're all about. And we usually we go on twice a week. So on Monday we drop our episode, which is usually an interview episode. So we get somebody in the hobby, whether it's a big wig or just when I say regular collector, somebody that's not creating content and really people don't know too much about, but we find interesting. And so no matter who it is, we try, like I said, try to get all the behind the scenes and find out what makes those people tick. And then on Thursday, we usually do a live, and that's just like a wrap up. And what we do is just talk about what's going on, how our first interview was with that guest, and everything that we loved about it, anything that we forgot to mention, and then other things that have gone on, whether we picked up cards, got some cards back from grading, any new purchases that we made. So just like a wrap up of the week for the Cousins. And then now we have the Wolfpack content. We've come out with 1 episode so far. So that's been Tony, Craig, Rob, and then
Shane.
was it Shane? Yep. So the 4 of them, and then we're dropping one next week. I believe is it Monday already. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the second, we've been recording all week, so you gotta, this is like, this has been hell week for the Cousins, and this is the final one, so we're trying to, put it all together, and we're here for you, Jeremy.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you having us on, because this to me, bro, this is like the capper of everything. This is what I've been looking forward to all week. It's like, man, we're gonna be on with Jeremy Lee. It's gonna be so cool, Sports Card Live, because seriously, like honestly, it's an honor. And then we have the faction, which to me is like, I love the faction. It's the 2 of us, and it's Shane Norton, the sports card nobody. He calls himself the sports card nobody, but he's definitely a somebody. That's the guy I talked about, that he works behind the scenes in ESPN. He's a cameraman, and he does content. He has his own podcast that's unbelievable. He's a huge wrestling. He's one of the premier Bret Hart collectors in the world. This guy's just amazing. Love Shane Norton, and the camaraderie and the rapport that we have with each other. It's like we've known each other since we were kids, and we just have fun. We what we do is we just come together, say, okay, you get 2 topics, I get 2 topics, Shane, you get 2 topics, and we're not going to say anything, and we just show up and bang, instant reaction. And it's almost like an ESPN type show, like Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless, and just like some crazy stuff. There's going to be some drama and a little bit of this. We talk about what's going on in the hobby, some cards. So it's a beautiful thing. Tony, go ahead. I think I stole all the line.
Anything to add to that, Tony?
No, other than check us out.
No, I mean, it's you guys are having fun, and that's the main thing. Doing content is fun. Like, I'm coming up on 3 years here, and I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't look forward to it every Saturday night and other nights as well. Okay, well, I'm glad you got a chance to kind of share the various projects you're working on from a content perspective. Let's talk a bit about just the hobby, the way it's been for the last few years, what's coming up, and how do we see the hobby kind of unfolding in 2023? Tony, your thoughts on what are your expectations for the next year in terms of is the hobby going to continue to be as awesome as it is? Are we going to continue to have more and more people coming into it? And I recognize we've lost people too. I mean, sure, you're going to lose some people that came in with dollar signs in their eyes, but that's okay. They were never really in it in the first place. They were never true collectors. I don't think we're going to lose any true collectors. But Tony, what are some of your thoughts on just the direction the hobby's going in 2023?
Yeah, I think with those people leaving, it leaves, like you said, the truer collectors. And I think that's going to lift the hobby as a whole. We all learned a lot during that time. And, we're still here. So if we're still here, let's make the best of it. The days of the quick flip are pretty much over, so let's move past that. And let's build a better hobby. Let's be smarter collectors. Let's take care of each other. Let's be aware of those guys that are in here for the wrong reasons. I think all of that happened during the boom. There was a lot of people who got ripped off. There's a lot of people who are fly-by-night people. Now they're not here, and now we are. So let's just keep building a better community. I also see, I see a lot of streamlining coming. I see, every day you look, there's a new partnership where you can buy your cards, grade them graded, get them vaulted and all that stuff, a one-stop shop. So that's something I'm going to be interested to see how that all kind of works out, to see who's partnering with who next. And again, just for the, like Oz always says, for the good of the realm, let's see how, for the good of the hobby, I think that we're headed in a good direction. I think we're probably at the floor now where all these cards are going to start coming back up a little bit, maybe not as fast as they did before, but I think good things are ahead. It's the people who are here again. We are the people. Like John Newman says, the hobby's the people.
The hobby's the people. Sports Card Nation.
For sure. Shout out to John. But I think we're in good hands, and we're going places as a whole.
Oz, let's go to you. A bit of, we've had fluctuations in values, of course, the pre-pandemic, we shoot up, we come back, we correct, or we just level out. Here we are. What do you think? How do you see the future 2023 and beyond, if you want to speak to it? And again, none of us can predict what's going to happen. Never mind 2023. How about next week, next month? We don't know. Never mind past 2023. But really, the reason I asked the question isn't to see, isn't to get some crazy prediction. It's more to get a pulse on your perspective on the climate of the hobby right now, as it is right now. And, and even a bit about, there are narratives in the hobby that paint sometimes an ugly light on our hobby. And if that's the narrative that you are first introduced to when you come into the hobby, you may not stick around too long. Speak a little bit, Oz, about, I guess you can blend in a few things here. Like, how do you see 2023 unfolding within the hobby? And how do you see content and narratives kind of evolving over the next little while?
I think the future's bright. We had the boom. Everybody knows about the boom. That's when it was just on fire. Didn't matter what you purchased. You could get it today and sell it for 2x, 3x, 5x by the end of the week, just depending on how that player performed. It's not that easy, and it never was meant to be that easy. When Tony and I got into it, we were looking at cars that we were going to buy today and put them away, stash them away from 15, 20 years from now, and say, okay, let's look at what we've invested in, and hopefully it's grown over this time, which is usually how sports card operated. You would get something, hold it, and then later on down the road, you try to make a profit on it. And here comes the sneaker flippers. Like, Gary Vee went into his whole mantra of what exactly he thought it was, and what came about. The sneaker flippers, they were running out of inventory. They come over here, cards are smaller, they're easier to sell. So now all of a sudden these comps are going through the roof. Everybody's just loving it. And now it's like, boom, there's a crash. And like you said, all these people that came in to make that money dried up. Now they're ushering back out. But what's left? The true collectors, the people that are passionate about the hobby, that love the cars, that truly do this because it's an escape from, the reality. Look, reality is hard. Life isn't easy for a lot of us. Lots of things going on. So to be able to come into your safe space and to have these cards and to, be nostalgic about these things. I mean, it's really, the intrinsic value that these cards offer is so much greater than, the monetary. But at the end of the day, what I see happening, with Fanatics coming on board and just the people that are still here and the creators that are going out every day and making this content, I just think it's getting better and better. And I really do see a rebound. It's, obviously it's still down, but in my mind, I'm looking at certain things. It really depends on what it is, because there's, vintage cars that are at the highest values that they've ever been. The Roberto's Clementes and, the Mickey Mantles just sold for crazy amounts, so there's always your staples, the Babe Ruths or your Honus Wagners, that are always going to continue to just keep going up because of what they mean to the hobby. But then there's others, that are Willie Mays is another card that I believe he's still alive. And we always talk about that morbid view. Okay, once he passes, there's going to be that bump, and it's going to happen. But once people realize, man, Willie was like one of, if not one of the best, baseball players ever to play, and they realize that his card values are going to go through the roof. So really depending on what you're collecting and what you're curating in your, in your collection, is like my main thing is like, listen, now that you're in it and you have a passion, whatever it is you decide to collect, whether it's cards, basketball cards, hockey cards, just do it to your best of your ability, and that you have a mindset, okay, I'm going to try to have this collection that you love, but that at the end of the day will have some value because you went out and curated it, to the best of your ability that you can afford. You don't want to go into something and try to, obviously buy $10,000, $15,000 cards on a credit card, or, take out a mortgage, or, we don't want to do that. Do it at your own pace. I always say, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. If you want to come in, get a card, maybe one a month, start out short and, small, and then you can go ahead. Okay, you take that $100 card, add another $100, trade it up, and then you keep moving up little by little, leveling up. But I see like, the people that are coming in, they're excited. And like I said, I think the future's bright with Fanatics coming in. There's going to be a lot of things going on. I think they're going to open up the eyes of a lot of people. So yeah, to me, we've had a dip, but I think it's on the way up.
Well said, man. I enjoyed that soliloquy right there. As did Sean from Victory Investments. Says Oz is spitting
guy.
truth out here. There you go. There
That's
you go.
my
As
man.
he is. As he is. Darren here
Hobby
says,
priest.
thanks for being there for the hobby, you three. Much appreciated. T Dot says cards and crypto followed similar booms and busts. Now it's uptime again in both. I mean, maybe, hopefully. There's another comment from Chris C. right here. Says the bottom isn't here yet, I think, but a steady growth is possible. Sealed wax, etc. The thing is that neither this statement here from Chris that the bottom isn't here yet, I think, nor T Dot's statement here that it's uptime again in both are going to be true. Neither of those comments can be true, and not take anything away from the guys. And I'm sure in their mind, both those comments are going to hold true to what they're thinking. But all the cards in the hobby don't travel together. Some go this way, some go this way. Some will continue to go this way, some will continue to go that way. So you have to get a little bit more granular in your explanation or your statement than simply saying cards are going to go up now, or cards are going to go down. I think you have to really get more detailed. Like even Chris here does say sealed wax and vintage goats long term will be better than ultra modern. Well, some ultra modern will be better than some goats and sealed wax. It's just going to happen. It has to, because some players will become very good, but not all of them. I think that's just something I wanted to call out. Mark says Willie Mays top 4 of all time. Don't think anyone's going to argue too hard against that. Rubber Side Down says, do you think most people are still in the hobby just sitting on the sidelines? I mean, I think most people, some people are probably sitting on the sideline. But if you're sitting on the sidelines, what are you doing? Are you really in the hobby, or are you just kind of forgetting about it? And maybe in 10 years, when the next super boom happens, or 20 years, you'll come back in. But I think most people are all like true collectors, true sports card addicts, if you will. We're always buying cards. I mean, I think most people are still in the hobby, not sitting on sidelines. I think
like Jeremy, this is the perfect time to get off the sidelines. The card prices are perfect to go ahead and get things you wouldn't have been dreaming of just last year, that you not even a thought in your mind that you could afford some of this stuff, and now you can. So get off the sidelines, get in the game, baby.
Yeah, I mean, right now you can buy some cards for a lot less than you could have bought a year, 18 months, even 24 months ago. Well, 24 months for sure. That was the peak. Exactly right now was like the peak 24 months ago. Now is a great time to be buying cards. I mean, some crazy cards that I watch on PWCC's Premier Auction, like Topps Chrome, PSA 10, whichever parallel it might be, the gold refractor, LeBron, Kobe. I mean, these cards were doing $150,000. Now they're well under 100,000. They're some of them down to 40, 50K. And no specific example there, but there's some better deals out there, and that's at the super high level. I get that. Yeah. But the same thing, cards that were $2,500 back 2 years ago might be $700-800 now. Some of them, some are more. It just all depends. But yeah, now is a good time. Now is the best time. I think is the best time to get in, unless you're buying 52 Topps Mickey Mantles. The best time to get in that we've had in the last 2 years. Yeah. On many, not on all cards. I got to take my own statements. Not on all cards, but maybe on more cards than less.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Jake Dahl here says, "What do you guys think of Fanatics taking over?" I mean, I think this topic gets beaten to death everywhere. It is, but you know what? As it should be. So nothing against Jake's question here, because every week that we're all doing content out there, that takeover is coming closer and closer on basketball and football. So what do you guys, Tony, any thoughts from you on Fanatics taking over, their impending takeover?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of different approaches to the hobby. I'm looking forward to see if we see more stuff in the arenas. I think that's a big place to get people exposed to cards and collectibles. Right now they're selling jerseys, pins, hats, stuff like that. But I'm looking forward to seeing cards. Like, if you're watching the player in the court, if anything, if there's ever a time for impulse buys, it's while you're at the arena. So if they really want to capture people's feels when their emotions are coming out of the stadium, oh man, I'm going to pick up a box of cards or a pack of cards or maybe singles, however they want to do it. So I think that's going to be a big. I don't know for sure, but I could see that being a big part of their push, and I totally get it. Like I said, you want to really hone in on the people that you're trying to sell the product to. And I mean, and with their the way they sell apparel, they can do that for cards where you can order today and it's here tomorrow. Like they kind of got like a Amazon type thing going with that too.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a lot of innovation, and I'm sure there'll be some complaints at first, but let's give them a chance, see what they do. I think that the hobby does have some older ideas to it, and maybe we can upgrade that stuff a little bit for the good of the hobby as a whole. So I give them a chance.
Yeah, and I think you said complaints at first, not just at first. There will be complaints forever.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
We know that just from experience now. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what card company you are.
Right.
So there will always be that. But yeah, I mean, my quick thought, just to build off what you were saying, Tony, is that they have the distribution systems in place already. So now it's just layering on sports cards. They have to figure out what they're going to do with basketball and football. I mean, obviously Panini has the brands right now that people want. So are they going to just go to Topps and take Topps brands, and do they have to build out the Topps business, hire more people? Who are they going to hire? Probably, I mean, I would think you're going to go to the people that just did it for Panini. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I have no insights into that. But Oz, any thoughts from you on Fanatics impending NFL and NBA takeover?
I mean, I think, like Tony's saying, they put a lot of money into this. It's not like they got to make something happen. So they have the greatest minds when it comes to sports cards all together in these conference rooms, and they're trying to come up with ways how they can generate business. They didn't get into this for the nostalgia aspect of it. There might have been a little bit of that, but the main thing was we got to make money. Sports cards are hot right now, hot. And when they did all these moves, the hobby was through the roof. Now it's died down a little bit. So now it's about, how can we be strategic and figure different avenues and ways, the whole thing about zero cool. Are they going to be able to take pop culture? Because pop culture to me, sports is always going to be there. But pop culture, the IPs that these some of these things have is way bigger than just say, the Philadelphia Eagles. You could talk about, Game of Thrones, or you could talk about, Sopranos, or, just all-time shows that people have watched and they're near and dear to their hearts. Why wouldn't you want a piece of that? So if Zero Cool can go ahead and corner that market, that's something big. You got Topps, where, everybody, any vintage guy can tell you, they're top. You know what a top stand is? When somebody says they're a stand, that's almost like an Eminem. That's like a guy. I don't know if you remember that song "Stand," where he had the stalker.
Stand, yeah.
So if you call you a Topps stand, that means you're a stalker of Topps. That basically you're a lover of Topps. You're all about Topps. So now there's these guys that have been waiting all this time. It's always been there for baseball. Man, if I could only get that basketball. Man, if I could get So they're just waiting and hoping and praying that Topps can bring back the chrome and all that other stuff that they loved that when they were kids growing up. So if they can do that, take the Topps brand, bring it into the basketball and the football, and take that to the next level, and then again, Tony, great idea. It only makes sense to have these at the arenas. We were talking to the one dude, they have a shop, an LCS right where Patriot Stadium is, so for the New England Patriots right there, bang, there's so during football games, people just come in, buy wax, buy singles, right along with their jerseys and everything else. And they say the place is constantly, even in the off season, just people are constantly coming in through there. So it's already there, precedence has been, set right there, and it's shown that it can be successful. So why not take that? Why not Fanatics go in there and take that model and run with it? So it's just about just being creative. And I know with all the money that they've put into it, they're just not going to sit back and let this fail.
Yeah, well said. I mean, pretty much a lot of my thoughts spot on right there. So thank you for that. JG here makes a comment. Topps Chrome basketball release under Fanatics will be incredible. I think there's a lot of people hoping for that. And you got to wonder if they don't do anything with respect to Fanatics brands, or Panini's brands like Prism, etc., National Treasures, Flawless, Immaculate, all these great brands, Optic. What are they going to do? They're going to have to go to Topps and revive all those old brands that haven't seen the light of day for 10 plus years. So that'll be a good time for collectors. That'll be a very exciting thing if it's Topps brands coming back versus a continuation of Panini brands. I really think so. Darren here said, collect the right players, stay away from base. That's what I'm about. Love vintage. Also love pretty looking modern refractors and hollows. Yeah, that's good. Nice comment. He does say stay away from base, to which we had a comment here from Chris C, who said base only got a bad name because too many people sent them to PSA for grading, but the reality is the pop counts aren't even accurate because resubmissions are counted as the same card. Flawed and accurate number. Yeah, very important to note that population reports on the grading company's web, on PSA and Beckett probably especially, because they're just such a big population, are just not reliable. They're just not accurate. They're just not. And I've had discussions for the past several years about how inaccurate are they, and I used to think it was small, maybe 5 to 8% overstated. I think it's more like 30 to 50 at this point because of how many people capitalize and take advantage of the inconsistency of manual grading. And of course, I'm with tag grading, which is automated consistent grading. So I'm gonna really focus on that. But it is what it is. I mean, yeah. Okay, let's keep on going here, fellas. We're gonna wrap up shortly here. We've it's hard to believe we're already at the hour 45 mark here. Chris C said everything is cyclical. I'm still buying, especially vintage low grade cards for my PC at a good price. Couldn't agree more. Everything is cyclical. It just is. And you think about a player like Mike Trout, or you think about a player like Sidney Crosby in hockey. I mean, these guys have been playing for 12 to 17 years in there, and their cards have gone up and down in between, up and down and back around. So timing the market, I don't like to think I can do it, but there are times when hey, this card is 60% of what it was 2 years ago. Maybe now's a good time to jump in. Mark here says my Jeter player named rookie card is only worth 40 in the New York area. I found it for 15, but it's hard to move. Okay, Mark. Sorry, I don't understand the question mark, but thank you for the comment there for sure. Right here, Cousin Oz, Kiss Black Sabbath card. Do you collect any of that?
Not Kiss. I do have a Michael Jackson, if anybody's interested. So this is my Topps American Pie 2011. But I definitely I used to sing back in the day, so that's things like that, performance, artists, things like that really hits me in the feels as well. So, but I was a little too young. My brothers were big into Kiss though; they loved Kiss. But Ozzy can't go wrong with Ozzy either. So come on.
No. I love the music cards especially the ones from Europe, from Sweden, Denmark, from the 60s, 70s, and maybe I think that's about it. 60s, 70s. I love those cards. Sean says Tony is sneakily one of the smartest dudes in the hobby. He's the Roberto Clemente of sports cards. Go Chiefs, though. Yeah, he's a. So we were talking about the Eagles before, and I was like, I don't have a horse in the race. I always say I don't, but I'm going to cheer for my friend's team. Well, I got friends. I got you guys. Right. I was thinking about Sean in the back of my mind. I'm like, I can't say out loud that I'm hoping for the Eagles. What's Sean going to think? He's a diehard Chiefs fan.
Sean is the man.
This is the guy that wrote and performs the song that goes before every episode of Sports Cars Live. I can't go against his team. Right? I just hope I hope all my friends are happy, but they can't be, especially if they're going up against each other.
Listen, we can go live at halftime, and we could talk about where the game's going. How's that sound?
That would be great, actually.
I'll be in no condition. But Sean is the man, though, man. Other than being the Chiefs fan, he's all right.
We'll let that one slide.
Let it slide. Here, T-Dot says the arena approach risks overproduction, which is already evident in the plummeting modern cards.
Can I say something with that, Jeremy? Though?
Yeah, because I don't understand what the arena approach. What is the arena approach?
Well, I think he's talking about where if they sell cards in the basketball arena,
selling cards like in arenas. Right. Got it. Yeah.
The only thing with that, and I see some comments about base cards. and it just harkens back to, I saw there was an earlier comment where somebody said new blood is needed in the hobby. So, when you want to bring kids in, right now it's all about, we were talking to sports car dad. He's like, right now it's all about the hits, all about the hits. Well, you got to start somewhere. So yeah, these base cards aren't worth anything per se, but if it starts a kid along the path of being in the hobby and he learns how to take care of his cards, trade cards, figure out what, curating a collection, learning what value is. So yeah, to me there is a value to base cards, because it's just, for me, is you got to crawl before you walk. So maybe the base cards are the crawling of the hobby, and kids learn and they make a collect, and then they start learning, okay, now there's a next level to this. So just saying base cards are a waste, to me they're really not, because to me they're the kind of the ground floor of the hobby,
the foundation. That's what every especially vintage collectors, that's where they came from. We're set collectors. That's what you did. You built these sets, and that's how you learn. And then these things were passed down generation to generation, and now it, like we talked about with Sports Card Dad, it's like that kids today could care less about that. You go online and the culture is trying to get the most expensive card, and just this single, that single, and you're looking for the new hottest prospect, whether it's football or basketball, or even in hockey, with the young guns. That's the big thing. Every year you got to get that new young gun, the new young gun. So it's almost backwards for these kids, and it's like, where do you get this money from to be able to afford all this stuff as a kid? And like you said, Tony, you got to start somewhere. So why not? And as far as the arena approach, I mean, you don't have to go crazy, but Fanatics, they own these stores. They sell, hats, they sell jerseys and all that. So isn't Lids part of Fanatics? Yeah. So they're going to have, cards being sold in Lids, so it is what it is. I go to right now to the Wawa, which is a convenience store, and they have, Topps Chrome being sold at the counter, or Pokemon. Cards are everywhere. They've always been everywhere, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? So this whole risk overproduction, I mean, it is what it is. They're going to continue.
They have to overproduce in order to reach middle America, in order to reach every potential collector out there. And just because some brands are overproduced or mass produced doesn't reflect on the overall production levels of the whole hobby.
Right.
There are middle brands, there are exclusive brands that are not overproduced. They're produced to the numbers that they put right on the cards how many there are out there. So it's another one of those sort of statements that doesn't apply to the whole hobby. It only applies to a segment of the hobby or certain brands. But yeah, let's go to some more comments here, because there's like Christy, 86 Topps football base wasn't boring to me. Love that set. So my comment there is that when people talk about base in like a derogatory tone, I believe they're really talking about base in like modern base and ultra modern base, where there are a multitude of numbered parallels or colored parallels that you can also collect. So nobody wants the base. But then there was a comment down here from Chris C. says, base, you can also complete sets. Believe it or not, everybody out there, there's still lots of people that want to collect a base set of a flagship product, and they do not care at all how many other people are doing it. They do not care at all how many copies of that card are made. They want to fill in their binder every year and archive that season of their favorite sport. So base cards serve a very important purpose in the hobby. I think as you become a more, and I'm going to say advanced collector, but keep in mind that there are people who are very advanced who've been collecting sets since the 50s still at this point, or the 60s, 70s, and 80s that are still doing it. And that is, so there's kind of different advanced collecting. You've been doing it for 40 years the same way, or you started out in 2015 buying it with going into your local Wawa, buying some packs of cards, building a set, and now you've kind of refined your tastes. Maybe you have more money and you're going for different sorts of cards. So I have no problem with Fanatics coming in and putting cards everywhere that are that entry level product. I think that's, I said it before, not everybody can afford to drive a Ferrari. Not everybody can afford to crack national treasures. It's just the way the world works. So
Agree.
Let's we're gonna run out of time here. We're gonna run through the rest of these comments, and then we'll wrap this up, fellas. Yeah, T-Dot says a balance must be achieved. I think that is very important for fanatics to find that balance, because what they don't want is unsold product coming back to them, or sitting and being blown out at $5 a case, like we saw with 86 Fleer basketball when it was first produced. Now the stuff is gold. That's for sure. T-Dot says Connor Bedard rookie will be one of the most anticipated player cards since Connor McDavid. Yeah, we are about to have our next generational player in hockey who is going to drive that portion of the hockey segment. Anyway, Chris says they need lower box prices if they expect more people to enter, because families don't have the income to spend hundreds on a box for their kid. Agree. Comes back to, we need those dollar packs, $2 packs again, those $35 boxes. Tito says vintage are blue chips, modern are penny stocks with little exceptions. There are exceptions, though. There just are. And the thing about not all vintage is blue chip, T-Dot. But I understand what you're getting at. The Essential Credentials, Matt, welcome, says the lack of value with modern base is really sad. Think about 93 Flair. You got pumped when you pulled the star player. When I watch group breaks now, there's little to no excitement for star base. There's none at all. They don't even tell you they got this. They don't even announce the cards.
They use those as the cover of the hit.
Exactly. Straight to the hits. Junk Wax, thank you so much. Jeremy says, I'm a set collector, but I don't put them in pages. Hey, that's fine. Fill out your box. Check out your checklist. I get that for sure. Mark Santucci says the only complete set I have is 84 tops and 88 score. That's cool time. Hey, whatever floats your boat, right? All right. Good. So anything else, guys? There was a few things we didn't really get to. I think it's okay. Anything else you wanted to touch on, though? Oz, start with you.
Well, I wanted to actually let Tony lead the way. He had a question about Wayne Gretzky and, values.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I wanted to ask you, because I saw somebody said if we were going to the expo.
Oh, I saw that. Sorry that I didn't. Sorry about that comment. I missed a chunk of them, I think.
Yeah, no worries. But I did see that, and just we were talking to a hobby friend of ours, and the Gretzky OPG is something I want to add to my collection at some point. And he's going to the expo, and he's like, hey, you should come with me up there. And I was like, yeah, maybe I will. I said, and we were just kind of talking. I said, I wonder if the Gretzkys up there if they're more expensive than here in the States. So just what are you thinking there?
Probably, to be honest, I think that well, first of all, there's going to be a much larger selection of Gretzky OPG rookies at the expo in Toronto. You will have your pick of probably 300 in the room. One booth will have 60. Another booth will have 50. You probably have your pick of 300 at least, I would say. Right. Does that excess supply or large supply bring down the cost? Probably not, because as T-Dot says here, Gretzky OPGs are gold, and that's just the way it is. Everybody wants one. So, and we as hockey vendors at the expo, we don't give them away, right. And we are willing to keep them because it's an easy card to get good value out of at any time. So
right.
But you'll have your choice of a lot. And listen, you guys come to Toronto. I mean, if it pays you, there are benefits to being social, to being likable, to being conversational. If someone comes to my booth and all they straight to bit, how much for this? It's like, I'm not going to bend much on my prices, but if you want to engage in a conversation and tell me about your collection and you're happy to be there, it's just part of human nature and my nature anyway. I'm going to want to see you happy. I might give you a better deal. So you guys being that nice, friendly, outgoing guys are probably going to get a really fair price on one. But to take this whole Toronto Expo thing a step further, I want to not that you need me to, but I want to invite you guys up there. If I haven't already, come up. Come up. It's not that far for you. I don't know. Well, maybe it's
it's not too far.
Not too far. We got guys that drive up from New York City every year. I know about a half a dozen that drive up every time for it. And I know that the drive from Philly to New York isn't that long, a couple hours. So you guys could easily make your way by road or air.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
fair
think
enough.
I think 2023 is going to be the year of the Cousins traveling. You know, we want to make it down to the Dallas Card Show. We want to make it to Culture Collision. We want to make it to Toronto Expos. You know, just try to get, Burbank Card Show. We need money. We're gonna have to try to figure out how to get that all done. But maybe somebody could sponsor us and just have us take trips, and we'll just pump out great content from there.
Yeah. Listen, I have the deposit down on a family truckster, so we're good to go.
There you go. T-Dot right here says he bought a Gretzky at the Edmonton show and the guy would barely budge on price. He might be talking about me. I'm not sure. But the Edmonton is the other expo. There's two expos up here. Edmonton is 2,000 miles away from Toronto, basically. North of me, 3 hours north of me, and I'm north of Montana, where Toronto's near Detroit, sort of thing. So completely different area of the country. But yeah, it'd be great to see you guys there, and it's a great show. I mean, everyone who came up from the States at the November show absolutely loved it for sure.
Awesome.
Chris C here says LeBron is going up a bit, I would guess, because of the scoring record about to be broken. Brady will climb again once he enters the Hall of Fame. I wonder. It depends how far down Brady cards come now that he's out of the spotlight. Will they come back when he goes in the Hall of Fame? His Hall of Fame career is likely built into those values already. And as far as LeBron going up a bit, again, everyone knows that's happening. So they might actually come down as people take that approach. Hey, they're going to go up. Maybe I sell now. Yep. Well, the more people that sell them, the more supply there is. And then, of course,
I think with LeBron, the values have dropped significantly over the past year since the boom. And I don't really see a spike coming until it's all said and done. And when everybody realizes, like, damn, LeBron was the man.
Yeah. That's the thing about LeBron. He can go up and down during his playing career. The Lakers are sucking. Lakers are doing well, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. He is going to go down as an all-timer. He's a Babe Ruth. He's a Mickey Mantle. He's a Michael Jordan. It just is that way. Never mind who's better. It just is that way for sure. Darren, I don't know if you're still there, but thank you for joining. T-Dot says, it wasn't me. I was too tall and too busy. It's funny. Awesome. Yeah, that was a very busy show for me. I was one man with a ton of cards. But okay, nice. Well, guys, we're over 2 hours. That's all right. This was fun. I don't know. I just feel like we're good to end this. What do you think?
Absolutely. It's what is it? Midnight over here on the East Coast? Yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I can go for another 3, but if you want to call it,
Well, first of all, let's tell everybody, guys, if you are not yet, you can follow these guys on Instagram at Cousins_Collectibles. Look at the ticker right now, and at Oz the People's Mailman with a bunch of underscores. Just take a look at it. You can find them on IG, and of course, check out their podcast, Cousins Collectibles, as well as all the other content that they are doing. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Also want to let everybody know tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, I will be back with Josh Madigan of the Hockey Cards Gong Show. We will be covering the hockey cards ending on PWCC's weekly auction, and there is now no requirement to qualify for extended bidding. It is all access. This is going to be a very fun auction, and that will be the case when Adam Gray and I cover the premier auction, which is going to be on Thursday, the 16th of February. That's going to be crazy. You'll want to check that out. No shows next weekend. I will be at Burbank. And then February the 17th, Friday, I'm actually working with another auction company, hosting a live show for them. They are not doing sports cards, but they're doing something else that I collected as a kid. Action figures, that sort of thing. Check out LCG Auctions if you haven't yet. I just registered to bid with them today. And if you do register to bid with them, my name is in a drop down. So let them know that it was that I brought them some value and that they got some bidders. Oz, you got something to say.
Man, I'm excited about that. Make sure you give me a little reminder. I don't want to forget that, and I got to definitely register to bid on that because I'm looking to make some moves in the toy game, especially when it comes to He-Man. And you showed me a couple things yesterday where my mouth dropped, and I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. So I'm like, listen, man, real quick, we got SCL, we got PWCC, we got TAG. We got the Canadian PIMP. Like this guy, he's Mr. Acronym over here. And I just want to say, I got to bow down, bro. You are the man, dog.
Oh, come on. I mean, all right. Thank you so much. But I'm just having a good time here.
Yeah. Hey,
just
man.
like you guys decide to go live one day, start a show, and here we are. I'm almost 3 years doing this, which is unbelievable to think that
Nice.
that Sports Cards Live is just shy of 3 years old. I can't even believe it, but I appreciate that, Oz. Thank you so much. Some comments still coming through. Diamond Card Collector, thank you. Dex Flow, these are two of my favorite cousins. Love it.
Dex Flow.
Whoever's watching on Facebook, thank you so much. Jeff McMahon, good to see you. Thank you. Bobby Burrell in the house. Enjoyed the show. Nice variety. Thanks, Bobby. Good to know you're there.
Thank you.
Dex Flow says, I got AFA graded Transformers. Big money.
Ooh,
Yeah. LCG Auctions does some Transformers. I mean, some VHS, which, I mean, I'm not sure what's up with VHS collecting, investing, if you will, but the VHS, it's all graded what they're doing, and the selection they have, it's all the classics. It's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to learning more about
I
it.
gotta check those out now.
Yeah, check it out. There's like 230 or 40 lots going off, and anyway, I'm gonna host a live auction show on something that is not sports cards, and I'm looking forward to it. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm pumped, actually. It made me pull out my box of Star Wars figures from several years back and look through those, and it's fun. It's fun. Anyway, thanks, T-Dot. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Oz, Tony, you guys are awesome. Thank you for joining. Glad we got this done. Stay right there. Everyone else, we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, 6:30 Pacific on the PWCC Hockey Show. If not, have a great week ahead. And this episode is over.